welcome back to the American Superbike Show. I'm your host, Itch Turner, and today we are going to review all the action that happened at Barber Motorsports Park, but we get to start off this show with a little bit something different, and, well, something new. I hope we get to it sticks around, but like I said last week that I started putting out a call for questions every Friday on Reddit, on my American Superbike Show subreddit. And if you don't like Reddit, you can always just submit it the old-fashioned way through email at americansuperbikeshow@gmail.com. And this week we have our first question submitted, and it's from Reddit user Megan Your Jacket. And her question is, don't know if you were at the race this weekend, but I'm curious if there was any discussion about the red flag incident in Supersport today. Not sure if it was just on TV, but I didn't see a red flag when there was a bike on track over a blind crest. It ended with a horrible crash that I think shouldn't have happened. And I'm just going to leave that there. So first I want to say thank you for the question. It definitely was one of the tougher incidents that I've watched. In the military, I learned of this phenomenon. It's called time dilation. And basically, a certain highly stressful situation, time feels like it just slows down to almost a stop. And it's especially not fun when you're in a situation where you're watching something happen and you know that there's not a damn thing you can do about it. I say that because I'm sure that you, just like how I know I felt it at home, but you got to experience that effect this weekend. I went back over the last few days and I pieced together two clips of video that Moto America showed on the broadcast. The one that was live, and at the end of the race broadcast, they had a short clip of Ryder Davis and where he initially went down and just his part of the incident. And putting those together, I was able to come up with a time of less than 8 seconds from the beginning of Ryder Davis going down until Ella's motorcycle made contact. That's not really a lot of time. And there's two contributing factors that I think that ate into that less than 8 seconds of time available for action to happen. The first one is like you mentioned, the blind crest. That section of the racetrack at Barber Motorsports Park, it almost winds through there like it's an outdoor motocross track that's just been paved over. It's super steep in the ups and the downs, and it twists and turns. There is a corner worker shack that is on the rider's left-hand side before you crest the hill. I am not sure exactly what they can see from there, but I'd be shocked if they could see the entire downhill section of that part of the track from their stand. From Instagram reels that I saw, their response looked to be near immediate, but I'm not sure that even they knew exactly where the bike came to a rest until they got a lot closer. And part of that is, that whole area where the incident occurred, it generally steers to the right. And then because of that, in our 8th grade science, we learned with centrifugal force that whenever something happens, it's probably going to sweep all the, everything off to the left-hand side of the track into the runoff area. But somehow in this instance, the tires on that Ducati managed to kind of just catch for a second. And I think might have had something to do with the curbing. But it was well after Ryder Davis had left the machine, and so there was nothing he could have done about it. And the bike just kind of shot back onto the track on its own with absolutely no pilot or anything before coming to a rest on the racing line. Ryder Davis did exactly what he's supposed to do, and he popped up immediately and started to try to make his way safely to his machine. Especially with Moto America's active competing rules and the way that's applied, the riders are pretty much being instructed and coached that doing anything else beyond that could lead to you just being disqualified from out of the race. So I think Ryder Davis did exactly what he was supposed to do. Now, I think the flagging station above that before the incident, I think the corner workers there did everything that they were supposed to do. There is another flagging station that is down at the bottom of that hill, and that one's on the rider's right-hand side. And I could almost guarantee you that I don't know this for a fact, but I can almost guarantee you that they were probably on the radio to race control immediately. With all this being said, so here's the part where it gets a little touchy, because I think both things are true. I think that the red flag was out before Ella's bike made contact and before she crested that hill completely. I also I think that at the time that the red flag came out, Ella was probably already past any sort of point where she would have been able to see that red flag, especially considering how she was on the attack. She was immediately behind the rider in front of her and just kind of a little bit, shaded to the outside by about a bike width. And that's going to be something that would have taken a lot of her view of what's ahead away. And she set up this beautiful pass where she was going to do the over-under and just kind of beat the guy to the apex and then drive away from there. And it was just the unfortunate circumstance that when she popped out from behind him, there was a bike in the course less than a dozen feet in front of her. There was absolutely nothing she could have done. I don't think there's anything that the series could have done. For lack of a better term, I think everything was done by the book, and that sometimes life just happens and it deals us things that we don't really want. I just don't know if there was anything that anyone could have done differently with those factors that are involved. I'm going to mention a couple other things about this situation before we move on and get into the recap of the races. The first is I feel like this definitely needs to be mentioned, that Moto America does not use traditional flagging stations anymore. The way that this is their first year where they have moved to something different. Now they use these large, and I'm telling you, they are big, LED light panels that display the flag condition at the spots where the corner workers used to sit and wave flags. Okay, so that plays into our perception of this a bit, I think, because we are so used to just over the years seeing that physical red flag wave around on the side of the track by an actual corner worker that it's going to take us a little bit to get used to these video boards instead. I can't even tell you exactly where they were because they're there. I can tell you that. I saw them all throughout the weekend and they are all over the race course. But they are also attached to the fence and in a lot of places where it's not picked up by the TV cameras and from where they're sitting. So that's one of the reasons why I think it's very likely the red flag was out well before the second contact was made. That whole point that I made about Ella being on the attack and how it would probably been impossible for her to see the red flag if it was out. This is something I feel like needs to be said. In last week as well, I mentioned something about maybe possibly starting a Facebook page for my show and everything. F that. The response from those keyboard warrior idiots over there that are just seem hell-bent on blaming somebody for this incident, whether it be Ella herself or the series or just anything, y'all need to grow up, get a life. This is not that case. So that's all I'm going to say about this for now. Let's move on to happier things. As a matter of fact, we're going to pause for a second. I need some more coffee, and I need to cheer up a little bit before we move on. All right, I have more coffee, and I'm trying to cheer up. Although it's going to be a little hard because we don't really have news of the week to really go over, but we do have The injury bug has just been awful this year. Ella has non-life-threatening injuries that she will recover from at some point in time. But also Ashton Yates, he wasn't quite healed up from his crash at Road Atlanta, and so he wasn't able to take part in the weekend at Barber. And Rossi Garcia, he was out before setting a lap in qualifying in Talent Cup. And Benjamin Smith had a crash on Friday that made him have to redraw from the weekend, and same with Bodie Page. And then we had this Kevin Horney and Hayden Dietrich, each also, there was two more like super scary crashes to watch in Saturday's race 1 for Supersport, and that's caused both of them to miss Sunday's race 2, and quite honestly, they're probably going to miss more than that. I'm probably missing a couple of people too. I'm not really trying to do a full and exhaustive list off the top of my head, but it has just been a rough opening start to the year health-wise for Moto America riders. I just hope we get to a point to where we're going to be just talking about all those riders making their returns and coming back, and not talking about anyone else going to join them. So what happened in Superbike this weekend? Well, one thing that kept happening was these great starts for Matthew Schultz. He has been getting off the line like a demon at the start of every single green flag and the lights go out. Matthew has just been up there. And then this weekend, Cambobier did not have good starts. I wonder if that might be something that it obviously is something that the Ducati team is going to have to work on a little further before we get to Road America. Let's see here. Superbike was also affected by red flags. PJ, he crashed out of third place on lap 9, and they had some difficulty getting the bike out of the air fence, and so that brought out a red flag. And the one thing I have in here in my notes was red flag was long, made me sleepy. Because I was sitting in the media center up there on the third floor of the tower at Barber for this race, and I just remember because it was... Boy, I don't know how many red flags we had at that point during the day, because we had the couple in Supersport, and then I think we had one in Talent or Twins, or it was getting a little hard to sit through, and stay awake with the red flag portion by the end of the day. When they did restart race 1, it was with 8 laps to go, and it was just another dynamite start for Matthew Schultz. And this time for Bobby Fong as well. And it was another not great start for Cambobier. Cambobier also, he lost another position on that lap going into Charlotte's Web, but then he ended up he made positions back as the race went on, and Cambobier managed to get by Bobby Fong with about 4 laps to go for second place, and that's where he ended up finishing. And how did JD Beach get into third? It was pretty quick after that restart. He was just kind of there. He was teleported into the race at third place, he had been there the whole time. I just don't, I have no recollection of how he got there. But it was great to see, because, boy, the weekend, it started off pretty rough for Attack Yamaha, and just the progress they made as it went on was just impressive. Let's see here. There was a 4-way battle for third place in race 1. And probably should have received a little bit more camera time. Moto America tries to be really good about, you do want to actually see the winner cross the finish line, but it would have been nice if they would have just kind of showed that either on a split screen or just real quick, and then went back to that third place battle, because it was awesome. And I tell you what, that was a strong move by JD on the last lap, going up on Bobby Fong into Charlotte's Web. Just super impressed that the Attack Yamahas are even on the podium at all, the way the weekend started for them. So the results of race 1, Matthew Schultz was P1, Cambobier was P2, JD Beach finished out the podium in P3, Bobby Fong finished 4th in P4, Richie Escalante was flying the flag for Suzuki in P5, and Hayden Gillum for Honda in P6. Andrew Lee won the Superbike Cup by finishing in 9th place. And the points after race 1, even after race 1, Matthew Schultz had already worked out to just about a full race worth of points into the lead. He had 70 points, and Cambobier was in second place behind him with 47. Sean Dillon Kelly was third, Bobby Fong was 4th in points, JD Beach was 5th, and Richie Escalante was 6th. Now that was before race 2. From race 2, PJ took the lead from the start. He got a really impressive start from where he was on the grid, but and once again, Cam Beaubier on his Ducati just was not able to get off the line quite as good as everyone else. PJ led most of the first lap, and then Matthew Skoltz was able to get by him right before the line. And then, just those first few laps in race 2, I invite you to go back and watch it again. I'm talking like maybe just the first 4 or 5 laps, because that was literally everything I have ever hoped Superbike racing could be in the United States. It was multiple manufacturers, multiple riders of just exceedingly high quality, all battling it up towards the front of the field. It took a little while for Matthew Skoltz to get away in race 2. I mean, once he did, he of course, he went on to sweep the weekend, but I don't know. There was an incident early on in the race. I don't know if... I don't have a lot of information about it. I wish I could share more, but something that had to involve Hayden Gillum, maybe Brandon Posh as well. I'm not sure. Maybe Jason Uribe, maybe also Dion Campbell. A lot of people apparently went down early on lap 2 and just never really got much beyond that. I know Hayden Gillum wasn't able to continue. I don't think Dion Campbell was able to finish the race. I don't have the results in front of me, which says, I know y'all love listening to me look up things. Superbike race 2 results. And Uribe did finish the race, but he finished at 16th, and that's way low for him. And he was more than a lap down. So there was something that had to involve him as well. Brandon Posh was able to battle back and work his way up to P8 with 5 to go. But at least I think he was involved, because this was one that I watched the race replay later, and his name dropped down the order. If you are a longtime Moto America fan, you are probably used to that. Sometimes that just happens. Like a transponder somehow skips a loop, and so the computer thinks that they didn't pass at all, and so they'll drop down the little pylon on the left-hand side of the screen on Live Plus, and you're like, wait, but I still see them right there. And then they cross the next loop and they come back up. That could have been what happened with Brandon Posh, but I kind of just going on the assumption he was involved as well, because his name dropped down the order around the same time. Anyways, Cam Beaubier ended up crashing out of this race on lap 6, going out of second place. And once that happened, Matthew Skoltz had a 2.1 second lead. It was over JD Beach. Bobby Fong was in 3rd, and then SDK, Richie Escalante, and Cam Peterson was in 6th. Sean Dillon Kelly managed to get by Fong a couple laps later, and then something had to happen with Bobby Fong with about 8 laps to go, because he dropped to 6 all the way down behind Richie and Cam P. Still not really sure what happened there either. Let's see here. Things did get a little strung out by the end of the Superbike race. The battle for 3rd was pretty much the closest on the track, and it was like around a 3-second gap. But, that early part of the race, though, where they were all still together and battling, it made it worth it to me. I still think it was, if you're going on a 1 to 10 scale of how you'd rate it, I'd give it a nice solid 6.5 or a 7. It was a good race to watch, but it wasn't the most exciting in the world at the end, but it was still just good, hard racing. Let's see here. Andrew Lee won the Superbike Cup by finishing in 7th place. I don't think I ever went through the full results for the top. Well, Matthew Skoltz won. He won by over 6.5 seconds over JD Beach at 2nd. Sean Dillon Kelly was 3rd. Richie Escalante was in 4th. Cam Peterson was in 5th. And Bobby Fong ended up finishing in 6th. And let's see here. Speaking of Sean Dillon Kelly, happy birthday. He managed to give himself a podium finish as a birthday present on his actual birthday, so I'm sure that was fun. Points for Superbike leaving the event. Matthew Skoltz is in first with 95 points. Sean Dylan Kelly is now in second after Cambobier crashed out of the race too. So he has 61 points and he's 34 points behind Matthew Skoltz. So there's already a pretty healthy gap that the other riders are going to have to work away at to catch the Strack Yamaha. I thought that they would, I thought that they would have a very strong start to their Superbike season, but like, wow, this is an impressively strong start. Getting 3 wins in the first 4 races and just a 34-point lead. Like, yeah, I'm not sure how much more they could have asked for. Let's see here. JD Beach is in third place. He has 49 points, and Bobby Fong is 1 point behind him in fourth. Actually, and then 1 more point behind Bobby Fong in fourth is Cameron Bobier with 47, and then it's just 7 more points back to sixth place Richie Escalante. So from third to fifth is only separated by 2 points, and then third to sixth is only a 6-point or 9-point gap to encompass all those riders. Our biggest movers of the weekend for Superbike, Andrew Lee gained the most spots. He picked up 10 spots overall from where he qualified to where he finished race 1 and race 2 on Saturday and Sunday. And then Richie Escalante was second with 9 spots that he gained overall on the weekend. And also with 9 spots gained was Max Flinders and Carl Soltis. 8 spots for Jeff May. And then I list all these off because I wanted to get down to JD Beach with 7 spots gained over the weekend. So he's right up there with like the most spots, only 3 away from having the most spots gained total of the weekend. And in both races, he worked his way up to a podium. So that is just a really impressive recovery from where they started off of, the first practice sessions and where they were at in the order. All right, well, that was Superbike. Let's move on to Supersport. I'll try and pick up my pace a little bit here. I see we're already at 22 minutes. Supersport, Ducatis may have had their trouble in the weekend with the starts with Cambobier and Superbike, but in Supersport, that was not an issue at all because Josh Herrin, man, he got some great starts throughout the weekend, and he had a lot of opportunities to do it with all the red flags that we had. But Kayla was not letting him get away. Like, they were taking shots. She was taking shots at the lead and held it here and there for a few moments throughout the opening parts of the race. Let's hear. It was 11 laps to go. Darren Bender was able to take P2, and Blake Davis took P4 from Tyler Scott. And then the red flag came out, and that was with the crash with Kevin Horney, and that was scary. But I'm glad to see that he's all right, and he's had to have a rod inserted into his leg. He shared that on Instagram. If they share it on Instagram, I don't feel as bad about sharing it here. Otherwise, I don't really want to talk about the health of riders. But he had to have a rod inserted in his femur, but the surgery for that went well, and so I'm not sure what kind of timeline or recovery is from that, but hopefully he won't be out too long. Well, when the race restarted, we had yet another nasty crash, and this one was going to the Charlotte's Web, turn 5. Shane Maggs hit Hayden Dietrich pretty hard with his bike, but he just, man, there was absolutely nowhere he could have gone, and I don't think there was anything else he could have done. Kudos to that ambulance crew. They were on site real quick and got Dietrich all taken care of and on his way. And it sounds like, at least according to his Instagram, that he's going to be okay. So on the second restart, it was the third hole shot in a row for Josh Herrin, and he held the lead. Well, Darren Bender was challenging for the lead, and there was one lap where Josh Herrin went a little wide in Charlotte's Web, and Yakov was able to pick up the spot. And so, with all this shuffling going on, Kayla Yakov was able to get by Bender going into the last corner, and man, what a pass that was. And just so much went on in those last couple laps of race 1. In race 2, Kayla Yakov was able to get the whole shot. And there was also a good start by Ty Scott, sliding into P2. And by lap 2, that same 4-rider group that was battling at the front for race 1, well, they were at it again for race 2. And it was Kayla Yakov, Ty Scott, Darren Bender, and Josh Herrin. And just, God, so much great action was going on. through there. Aiden Sneed, like I have this in my notes. Aiden Sneed up to 7th in 3 laps. How? I wish I could go back and watch. He's been impressive as hell this year. Hasn't been qualifying probably where he wants, but that's allowed him to make a lot of progress in races once the green flag drops. On lap 8, we get to that incident with Ella Dreher, and that was jarring. The restart saw Kaylee Yakov get the whole shot again, and Darren Bender was able to get by her with 7 laps to go. It was the same four at the front again after the restart. Bender, Kayla, Josh Herron, and Ty Scott with 5 laps to go, and they just moves at the front. They kept trying to attack each other. Let's see here. In the last few laps, Dominic Doyle crashed out on 9th place, unfortunately. Let's see here. What else do I have in my notes? Darren Bender got back out in front with 4 laps to go. And wow. Josh Herron and Kayla Yakov especially, I think they swapped spots like 174 times on the penultimate lap. Like, super sport races were just so good to watch on the weekend. At the end of it, it was Darren Bender getting another win on the year. He was P1. Kayla Yakov ended up finishing 0.2 of a second behind in second place. Ty Scott, he got third. That was after a review of a photo finish. It was initially given to Josh Herron, but you can see that Ty Scott got him by just a tire width at the line. So Josh Herron was 4th. Max Gerardo was 5th place, and Blake Davis finished 6th. The points leaving Barber for Super Sport. Well, P1 is Darren Bender. He has 103 points. Josh Herron is in 2nd place. He's 4 points behind with 99. Ty Scott is in 3rd with 85 points. Kayla Yakov is in 4th with 78. Blake Davis is in 5th with 56. And Aiden Sneed is in 6th place with 36 points. So the biggest movers of the weekend for Super Sport, well, Grant Cohen, Austin Martinez, Chuck RAV, Carson King, and Edgar Zaragoza, they all made up more than double digits on the weekend. And while not having the most positions gained right in the middle of that group is also Aiden Sneed, who made up 12 spots combined from Saturday and Sunday. And Aiden didn't just make up a ton of spots over the weekend. He is also the only one of this group that did so on his way to putting himself into the top 10 for both races. So that's why I think that Aiden qualifies as my biggest mover of the weekend. Let's go on to hooligans. What a start for Corey Alexander on the Arch in race 1. It's just unfortunate that the Arches started suffering a little bit of heat issues and were overheating toward the end of the races. And that's why you saw Corey Alexander he was out there attacking at the front from the beginning of the races, but by the end started to drop off and fall a little bit further back. And that was just battling those overheating issues. I appreciate Arch, and I love what they're doing, and it takes some balls to develop your bike out there on the racetrack in front of everyone for them to see. This is just normal development. They will get better, and they will be back, and they will probably be at the front again. So by the end of the year, I think they're going to have that bike sorted out, and it's going to be something to watch. You know what else is something to watch this weekend was Gus Rodeo. I said that, I thought he was the man that was going to break the Harley streak of victories in this class. And it turns out I was right. And he did so, he led every session. He won both races, just complete and total sweep of the weekend. A very impressive weekend for Gus Rodeo. I'm very happy for him. He took his first Hooligans victory easily by almost 5 seconds over Bryce Cornbow. Pietri was in 3rd for race 1. Josh Herron finished in 4th place on the Light Fighter. So that was a good result in its first full race in the class. Very excited to see that bike out on track. Jason Waters in 5th place, and Corey West finished in 6th place in race 1. And in race 2, Josh Herron got the whole shot on the Light Fighter, and I was excited. I was I watched this race as a replay at home, but I was still standing in my living room going, go, 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 because I'm excited to see what this bike can do in the class. Eventually, though, Gus was able to go up in the final complex, take the lead on the opening lap, and then what a battle with Heron leading most of from lap 2 until 3 to go. But, that's where unfortunately the electric bike probably started to suffer a little bit. It was a hot weekend, and especially on Sunday, the real high temperatures, it does start to cut into battery performance, and so Josh probably was starting to lose a little bit of power towards the end of the race. But let's see here. He was able to hang on and get its first podium finish for the Light Fighter with the second place. This year, unfortunately, Jeremy McWilliams and Corey West both had a DNF, and Corey Alexander also DNF'd right before the right flag. So there was 3 of the V twins that got taken out right there, including both the arches, which, like I said earlier, they are still developing. I think they're going to come back stronger. I'll be excited to see how they do at the Ridge. Let's see here. Gus Rodeo won race 2 as well as race 1. Race 2, he only won by 2.85 seconds over Josh Heron. Heron started, it was a battle for most of the race, but like when Heron started to fall back, he kind of just had to manage his pace and get it to the line, I think. James Rispoli was able to get Harley back up on the podium with the 3rd place finish in race 2, and then Jason Waters was 4th, Jake Lewis was 5th, and Robertino Pietri finished 6th. Our points for Super Hooligans leaving Barber, well, guess what? Guess who's all alone in first place in points now? And it's Gus Rodeo. He has 72 points now, and James Rispoli's in second with 65, 7 points back. Jake Lewis is in third with 59 points, and Corey West is in fourth with 50. In fifth place is Bryce Cornbell with 48, and in sixth place is Robertino Pietri with 42. Wow, that's an impressive display by Gus Rodeo. And for all the people who thought that, despite all the changes that Harley has had to make with where they've added 40-something pounds in weight and the tighter air restrictor they've had on the power that was given to them over the off-season, there's a lot of people who thought that wasn't going to make any difference or change anything. I'm telling you, they may have. I hope it didn't change too much, because the Harleys really were suffering from those limitations on the weekend. I thought this wasn't going to be a strong track for them, especially just with all the changes and directions, and just because that sheer weight that has been added to their motorcycle. And I don't know. Don't be surprised if maybe we went a little too far, and some of that weight could probably come back off, especially with the reduction in power combined with it. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Our biggest mover of the weekend for Super Hooligans was John Paul Green. He moved up 20 spots combined between race 1 and 2 and almost made it into the points in race 2. So good for you. Let's move on to Twins Cup. Twins Cup was moved from before Superbike to the last race of the day on both days due to red flags in the Super Sport race. On Sunday, they actually did start a race at their scheduled time, but there was an incident and it ended up being red flagged, and then the resumption was pushed until the end of the day. So it was probably a hard weekend for a lot of those competitors, because when you get the schedule in place and you kind of get your own personal schedule aligned with that, and to where you're prepped and ready to go at a certain time, and you just have to keep constantly adjust that on the fly throughout the day, that can play a good bit of mental stress on your mind. It's not something that maybe once is something you can just brush off and easily deal with, but when it's consistently happening to you over a few days, it can start to pile up. So good on these guys for making it through, and it's not easy to just have to deal with it. I know it sounds like it, but it's something that can really take away from your focus. You can definitely tell it didn't affect Hank Vosberg's focus, because he took off from the green, opened up a gap quickly in race 1, and like in race 2 as well, he didn't. That wasn't quite nearly as dominant as race 1, but like in race 2, Hank Vosberg was just a class all by himself and got the double victory and swept the weekend. Now, behind him, especially in race 1, that battle for best of the rest, man, inject that straight into my veins. That was just some of the great battles on track of just a group. I love watching Twins Cup. Logan Cunnison, unfortunately, had his motor expire while battling in that pack with 7 laps to go. It was that pack was also included Kevin Almeida, Matthew Chapin, Logan Cunnison, and Isaac Woodworth at that time. And aside from Chapin staying on Olmedo, it did get a little stretched out after that. Solly Mervis came from way back on Sam Drain and Charlotte's Web with like 3 to go. I feel like that pass is worth mentioning. If you did not see it, go back and watch race 1. It was awesome. It was not a great day for Sam Drain. I expected something better than just P6, but I mean, I guess not everyone has great days all the time. Matthew Chapin, he made a great move for second on the final lap, managed to hang on to it through traffic. And so at the end of the race 1, it was Hank Vosberg P1. Matthew Chapin was in second. He was 5.3 seconds back. Kevin Almeida was third. Isaac Woodward was fourth. Chris Parrish, the ageless one, was in fifth. And Sam Drain was sixth. Race 2 saw Hank Vosberg get a whole shot again. And he didn't completely pull away, but after a couple of laps, it was still more of a 3-rider group with Almeida and Woodworth at the front. But that didn't really last long. The gap from Hank Vosberg to P2 increased up to like 2.5 seconds already with 8 to go. And then Kevin Almeida went down at the end of the back straight. It was a shame to see. And then Logan Cunnison moved up into the podium spot by, getting around Matthew Chapin at the same time. But then Chapin got back by with 5 to go. That battle between those two, it just kept continuing because Cunnison retook third place with 3 to go at the line, and then Chapin got by again with 5 to go, in turn 5 with 2 laps to go. And on the last lap, Logan Cunnison was in front of the line. I'm not sure what happened, but Matthew Chapin was, he was definitely shaking his head. So I'm not sure what happened in those last couple of corners. We didn't need to see it on the camera shot. But at the end of the race 2, it was P1 was Hank Vosberg. Second place was Isaac Woodworth. Good finish for him. Third place was Logan Cunnison filling out the podium. Fourth was Matthew Chapin. Fifth was Chris Parrish. And sixth was Sam Drain again. Our biggest mover of the weekend for Twins Cup was Bear Stevenson. And they managed to pick up the most spots overall with 19. And they even got into the points in race 2. Congratulations, Bear. It was a good run. Rafa Amorim and Emma Betters also both picked up 14 spots. Yes, that is the same Emma Betters that came from BTR, which, I wanted to mention this somewhere as well. Like, there are, BTR, the class wasn't there this weekend, but I'm impressed by how many BTR graduates were actually there competing in other classes this weekend. Because Emma Betters was there competing in Twins Cup. Sonia Lloyd was also, of course, running in Twins Cup. And then last year's BTR champion, Kira Kniebel, she was running in Super Hooligans on a Suzuki SV, 1000? The old it was 999 6cc's was the actual displacement of the bike. For some reason, I can remember that, but I can't remember the actual name of the motorcycle itself because I'm weird. All right, but anyways, I just wanted to say that was really cool to see, and hopefully one day we can add Michaela Moore back to that list because I think that she was the brightest star that BTR ever put out, and I think it's a shame that she's not competing somewhere in the Moto America paddock. So I hope to see her back soon. Man, I lost my place. We'll just move on to Talent Cup. So Rossi Garcia, unfortunately, wasn't able to set a lap in qualifying or make either race for Talent Cup, and hopefully he will be able to get back out there soon. They won't be at Road America, so he'll has a little bit of a break before their next round. But let's see here. When it came to race 1, that opening lap of race 1, actually, all right, sorry, I'm getting a little. You can tell I finished my third cup of coffee. Yeah, I said third. Don't tell my wife. But anyways, in qualifying, I just feel like it needs to be mentioned that I'm not shocked that Nathan Gallagher took pole in Talent Cup, because like he is a really damn fast rider. He's going to go places. But I am a little shocked that he took it by over a second. It was like 1.2 something seconds back to second place, Kenzie Matsudaira in qualifying. That was a shock to me. Like, coming to this weekend, like everything had been so close and so tight that I wasn't even sure who was going to win, who was going to win, who would be strong, who would but no, Nathan Gallagher just came in and just dominated the entire weekend from the first practice session all the way through both races. Was just alone in a class by himself at the front. So that was impressive to watch. On that first lap of race one, also speaking of impressive to watch, but for a different reason, unfortunately, Kenzie Matsudaira, he did like everything but crash going into the museum complex on the opening lap. By the end of the race, he managed to work his way back up into a podium spot in third place. So that was also impressive, but probably not the same kind of impressive that he was hoping for. He was probably hoping that he could have a weekend more like Nathan Gallagher did, especially with the winning streak that he had coming into this race. But you know what? Just regroup and move on from there. We're going to have a great battle at the front, I think, throughout the rest of the season in Talent Cup. Let's see here. Ian Fraley unfortunately crashed out in the final turn. He pretty much got into the person in front of him. I don't know if that person checked up or what happened, or if Ian was just carrying more speed, but it's good to see him get up after that crash, because I was a little worried about the way that they both tumbled away. Him and the bike tumbled away from where the contact happened. Kind of just made me a little bit worried for a second. But as far as the races themselves go overall, the things got pretty spaced out in both race one and race two. In race one, with a few laps to go, it was Gallagher way out in front. I think he had about 5 seconds on Jake Page. And then it was about another 3 seconds back to Nathan Betancourt. And then there's more, and then further back to people behind that. The excitement was Kenzie Matsudaira making his way back up through the field after his, I don't want to call it an opening light crash, because he never did actually crash. But he went through the gravel trap, and he went through the grass, and he hit the curbs, and but managed to keep it up. And what an impressive talent these kids are. In second place, behind Nathan Gallagher in his dominant victory, was Jake Page, and then the aforementioned Kenzie Matsudaira in third. Nathan Betancourt finished in fourth place, and fifth was Reese Frankenfeld, and sixth was Sawyer Lafayette. Race two was a lot more strung out from the start. Kudos to the producers of the Moto America broadcast, for the broadcast team, because they found the one battle on track, and that was, the battle for fifth place between Derek Sanchez King, Nathan Betancourt, and Reese Frankenfield. And they put it on screen for most of the entire race, and it was fun to watch. At the end of the race, it was Gallagher again by almost 5 seconds over, this time second place, Kenzie Matsudaira. And then Kenzie had almost another 5 seconds on third place, Jake Page. And then fourth was Sam Drain. Fifth was Derek Sanchez King. He managed to win that battle on track. That was that we got to watch till the end. It was sixth place in Nathan Betancourt. The biggest mover of the weekend for Talent Cup was Trace Boudreau, and him and Colton Schaefer each gained 7 spots combined on the weekend. The next highest number after that was Derek Sanchez King, who managed to gain 4 spots. So that is our review of the Barber race weekend. And now that we're at the end of the show, I suppose it's as good a time as any to mention my sponsor, Riding Times. You can go to ridingtimes.com and find all sorts of electric bikes, mini e-motos and mini motos, and use the promo code SBK5 to get 5% off your purchase. All right, well, that was the weekend at Barber Motorsports Park, And next week, we get to move right on into a preview of Road America. And until we get there, just try and take care of each other.